Waterfall, the CCW podcast.
So hello and welcome to Waterfall, the water saving podcast brought to you by CCW. That's the Consumer Council for Water. We're all about saving water, saving money, protecting the environment and combating climate change. I'm Mike and it's great to be here with some great guests who are going to come along in just a second. In this episode, we are looking at small changes that we can make to our lives to save water, particularly how to save just 5 litres of water each day. And we'll be looking at why even that small amount is really important. Don't forget, you can get in touch with Waterfall. You can email us, podcast@ccw.org.uk. And we're on the socials at CCW Voice. So if you want to find out more about the Consumer Council for Water or Waterfall, check us out on the socials. So why look at 5 litres? One of the reasons why we thought we'd pick into this is that we do a survey on environmental awareness. And in that survey, we asked the question, do you know what to do if you wanted to save 5 litres of water? And it's really fascinating, the result, because what we see is 6 in 10 people say they would know what to do if they were going to save 5 litres of water, which does mean quite a big chunk of people don't know how to save just 5 litres of water. So we thought that would be really great to look into that, because 5 litres of water may not seem like much, but actually it's quite significant if everyone can cut back just for that 5 litres. So if you do want to find out more about that particular piece of research, it's available on CCW's website. All our research is available. It's called the Environmental Awareness Index Report.
This podcast is brought to you by CCW, the voice for water consumers.
So you're not just going to be hearing from me about how to save 5 litres. We've got some people who actually know what they're talking about. So it's fantastic to welcome our guests to Waterfall to help us dive into this. And it's a big welcome back to Jane Bellard, who featured on episode 80, which was Zero Water Homes. And it's our first time hello to Miranda, Rennie. And you're both from Weir The Agency. So hello, Miranda, and hello, Jane.
Hi. Thanks for having us.
It's great. It's great to have back on. So you guys founded Weir The Agency a few years ago, and you focus on transforming water use behaviours through campaigns and strategic interventions. And you even won awards. Ooh, that's exciting. But some of your campaigns are quite eye-catching, and I didn't know this until we were doing the research for this, that you were the agency behind the Save Our Streams campaign that Affinity Water were doing. And that started off as a Save 10 a Day campaign. And seeing as we're looking at saving 5 a day, let's start with the Save 10 a Day. Can you just tell us a bit about that campaign, how it came about, what did you do?
Yeah, absolutely. So we at the time I was contracting at Affinity Water, and I'd been looking at their water bill and how could we encourage nudging within the water bill, and at the time the head of demand management had come to me and sort of said, you know what, I want to try something new. We're going to have to try something radical to get 12.5% reduction in AMP7. How are we going to get that? We're going to have to do something new. So let's try using marketing tactics and behaviour change to get mass scale, to drive down demand on a massive scale. But we need to test it, and we need to do a pilot and see if we can get a business case together for this. Quite smartly, he'd sort of said, look, you live in St Albans, let's do it in St Albans where you understand the lay of the land, you know the right people, we can get this off the ground really quickly. And in St Albans, they use 10 litres more per person per day than the rest of the country. And we had about 2 or 3 weeks to get this live, no agencies, none of that. We had nothing. So it was very kind of throw a lot of mud and see what sticks, kind of, really quick and dirty, but it was great because we were given permission to fail, if you like. We were given permission to test stuff. It didn't need to be perfect. Let's just see what works. And so we went on the premise of save 10 a day. There's a sort of local insight around there's also ambition, a lot of ambitious people who worked in London who then moved out to have a family in St Albans And so actually using the insight of the sort of local competitive nature, we sort of, when we told people that they were using 10 litres more per person per day than the rest of the country, there was a sudden like, well, we can't have that. We need to sort this out, sort of attitude shift. And so that's the route we went down. We were using Get Water Fit, pushing people using that simple low sort of strapline, I suppose, to push people onto that website and to save water. But there was, from 56,000 households, 770,000 litres saved a day in 3 months, and the wettest October on record. Our original messaging was keep 1 million litres in the River Weir, which is a chalk stream, and then the Weir burst its banks. It was so wet. So we kind of dialed that one down a little bit, but we pressed on the chalk stream message, and we gave them that sort of I guess what they should do, and that was how that came about, and the results of that were then turned into sort of a business case. And actually, if we were to look at this on, originally it was SOS, became SOS, was going to be 10 campaigns in 10 different areas within the Affinity Water patch. But at the same time, Miranda had been doing some really interesting research that has uncovered the kind of stickiness of the chalk stream message. I don't know if you want to take over.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that meanwhile, while Jane was doing her behaviour change piece on scale on the bill, and then this sort of pilot for Save 10 a Day in St Albans, I had been contracted, just sort of like a really short-term contract, to have a look as a marketing consultant as what is the look and feel, the voice, the positioning of the brand Affinity Water, because they really didn't have it. They didn't have at that time, which they now have got, a team of sort of marketing professionals to sort of hold that voice and make everything look and feel like it's coming from the same place and that it's motivating. And so I had been doing a piece of work that was actually the area that they cover. It's got this sort of unique chalk stream environment, sort of 20% of the world's chalk streams are in the Affinity area, and it was very much about centered around place. We were just coming out of the back of the pandemic, where a lot of people had felt a lot more connected locally and understanding their environment far more. So 2 of the sole marketers sort of floating around the building, Jane and I were put together to say, well, actually, there's this proof of concept in the Save 10 a Day world, and we've actually now, we can see that water can be saved. And actually this piece of marketing positioning, rather than just sort of a spend on marketing for the sake of it, it was actually, we could do that through a demand management program. So the water saving initiative and using behaviour change, that actually gave the confidence. So the 2 of us came together and we loved working together. And that was the first year in 2021 of Save Our Streams. And in that first year, we saved over 20 million litres a day for the campaign, which actually evolved from being 6 or 8 centres to actually, we could see that we could make it a campaign for the whole of the region. And it's now in its 4th year.
It's certainly been very eye-catching. So did it work though? Did the Save 10 campaign work? Because I know you, Jane, you said some numbers there, but I wasn't quick enough to write them down or remember them.
So there was 770,000 litres a day saved by 56,000 households. So it was more than 10 in plenty of households and less in some. It obviously wasn't an even spread across the area, but it did manage to achieve what we accomplished, what we set out to accomplish. And I think in that instance, we would pushing people to join Get Water Fit and get devices and sign up from that sort of viewpoint. In more recent times, we've done a lot more on the actual behaviours and explaining to people the simple changes that they can do in order to make changes. So our campaigns have definitely evolved over time. They very much started in that. I mean, we were given the directive that it has to be about sending out devices initially, and then it was behavioural changes and nudges once they've signed up. And we had like 150,000 people signed up in that first summer. So we had got the numbers, and we were starting to really make those inroads. But definitely, as things have gone on, and we've worked on more and more different campaigns and seen what's worked and what hasn't, asking people to make a simple change, something they can stick to, that they know the benefit of, and they can really understand why they should do it, has been really effective.
So we are all about simple changes and easy changes here at Waterfall, and that's one of the reasons why we're focusing on just saving 5 litres, because it's a small amount. It should be easy to do. So before we move on with some more questions for you, we've been out and about and speaking to people to find out what they think, what their views are on saving 5 litres and water saving in general. So let's have a listen to some of these clips.
How much water do you use on a daily basis?
Maybe 10.
I'd say about 160 litres.
I don't know. We limit our shower use, and I tend to wash once a week now, just all in one day if I can do that, yeah. We don't have a dishwasher, so washing up all 2 bowlfuls a day. How much would that be in litres? About 6 litres maybe? 6 litres each, so 12 litres for that. And then showers, me and my husband, just 2 of us in the house.
Well, there's the toilet, obviously. I've done washing today, and obviously washing myself. I don't really know how many litres that would be. I would say less than a litre a day.
Do you think it's important that we all play our part to save water?
Absolutely. We need to do something, and the way the water prices are rising, if it's going to go on how much water you are using, that's why we are considering having a water meter now. My husband, we actually opened the water bill yesterday, and how much it's gone up by, I think it's about £120 or £130 per year. So I've said, as there is only 2 of us in the house, that we need to think about that.
I'm sure it is important, because we get told these things are important, but it's not something I actively think about. But of course, I'm sure it is very important, but I don't know why.
Definitely. I mean, it's just the prices of the water. It's just going higher and higher. It's just getting ridiculous now.
Yes, I do. Obviously, for the planet and money.
Yes, definitely, because I think our consumption of water in this country is far too much, and we don't monitor what we're using. And I think, particularly if you're living in home, and you just turn on a tap and you get water, you don't think about your consumption. Whereas, for instance, we live on a boat, and we know every drop of water that we use, it means we're closer to the point where we have to go and refill, which we don't want to do. So it makes us think about what we're using and we're using it for. So I think things like water meters is a really good idea.
What steps do you take to reduce water consumption at home?
So I used to be one for putting the shower on, then I'll go about my business and think, oh yeah, I'll just do this, I'll just do that. Now I am a bit more conscious of putting the shower on and then actually getting in the shower as soon as it's got to temperature.
I only use water that I need, so it's not like I'm taking steps. I don't waste water. In my mind, I don't waste water.
Well, I do use the dirty water still for me plant. I always use my washer on a quick wash, and obviously a cold wash. Don't use the heat. So it doesn't use so much water either. I use a shower head that saves me water that I've had off the water board.
So I limit the amount of times I shower. So I will shower no more than once a week now. And in between, I use other ways of keeping clean. So cleaning products and just doing very basic washes in the morning. For cooking, I very rarely cook food that requires water to boil or to use water in. And I tend to roast most pot meals now, so I know I'm saving water then.
What changes do you think you could make to save 5 litres of water a day?
We do have shorter showers, and I do use shorter washes on the washing machine as well.
I'm not really aware of any personally. If I could save 5 litres a day, I don't know. No, I don't know how I could, unless I just didn't flush the toilet as often. Like I say, after a number one, because like I say, I only use what I need.
Are there any habits you find it hard to change when it comes to your water usage?
My grandkids are out there. They now share. The younger ones will share the water. They'll have a bath together.
So you use very little water on a daily basis. For the reasons that I said before, so for instance, cooking wise, I think that's a really good area. People can think about how they can save water and thinking about ways they can cook food which doesn't require using water. So roasting, as I said before, is a very good way of doing that. and also limiting the amount you shower every day. You don't need to shower. Lots of people seem to think you do.
Probably not flushing the loo quite so much.
I mean, like I said, if I stopped flushing the toilet, I would think it was a bit weird, and sometimes I just think it's not nice to do that.
Yeah, probably watering the garden in the summer.
So there you have it. That's what some views from the streets. So Jane and Miranda, any of those responses surprise you there?
Do you know what I'd really like to pick out, actually? The short wash on the washing machine cycle. It's counterintuitive that an eco cycle is long, because people sort of go, well, if it's gone on for 3 or 4 hours, that must be loads of energy and loads of water. And actually, there's definitely some education needed to make people understand that a short cycle is really power hungry and really has to use a lot of water to get the same clean in that short time. I think that's one where there's a real lack of understanding of how to use their appliance in a way that's most effective from a water and an energy point of view.
That's great myth busting about washing machines there. Miranda, your views on what we just heard?
I think that a lot of that, we've done different insight work in different regions and nationally, and it's always amazing how people have no concept of how much water they use. And I'll be really honest, 5 years ago, if you'd have asked me how much water I use, I don't think I would have said 1 litre, but I certainly wouldn't have said, I live in a house of 4 and I know that our PCC is about 80. But I wouldn't have known that 5 years ago. And arguably, that idea of small changes, the amount of energy and education that's needed to get people to even understand how much they're using, let alone how much they can reduce. We have certainly found that giving people a really tangible and simple way of changing their behaviour, and just simply saying something along the lines of press eco on your washing machine, and also things like use your dishwasher, exactly like you said, Mike, that a dishwasher uses between 7 and 9 litres on an eco mode, and an average minute of a tap is 7 litres. So it's making people just realise the connection between those two things. Absolutely fill up your dishwasher and put it on eco. I think quite hard, the shower and bath, we certainly know from a lot of the insight work that we've done, people can become quite territorial and personal about their use of showers, and like the guy said about the toilet, and that there's a sort of a hygiene factor that people worry about, but actually telling people, for example, that it's much better for your skin not to have a shower every day, or that your hair doesn't need wash, your hair should only be washed once a week. I think coming at it from different places, I think motivation, like you heard, is it important that you save water? The motivation of why people should change behaviour is something that has really got to be considered. And I think when we first started working on programmes 5 years ago, everybody could say, I should switch off the tap when I'm brushing my teeth. But it's like, why? What difference does that make? And especially when it's cold water, the bills might be going up. We all recognise that can have a real impact on people's lives, but it's still a much smaller utility bill than many others. So it's like, why should I do that? Because it affects my life. Tell me. And as soon as you start telling them about the fact that this is local water that has come from the environment locally, and actually if you don't waste it, it will stay in the environment, and there's a huge energy cost to bringing it to your house and cleaning it, and also getting rid of it, cleaning it down and sort of putting it back out into the environment. People just give them small bits of information along that journey, and 1 or 2 simple tips, and people will say, look, unlike, I think the starting point of I already save a lot of water. I already do all I can. I don't waste it. And as soon as you say, you could wear your clothes twice instead of once, or have 2 minutes less in the shower, or only have a shower every other day, or water with a watering can rather than a hose, because that can use 1,000 litres. A hose can use 1,000 litres in an hour. I think that's when people start to recognise that it's not a finger-wagging paternalistic world in which people are you're being told to do something. It's like, look, if we all just do a little bit, things will get an inordinate amount better because we won't be wasting.
Absolutely. So we saw a big range range of people's estimates there of their own personal water use. I was digging out my lovely book of facts, right? And one of my favorite surveys that was done for Water UK in 2020 asked people to estimate their water use, and 46% of people in that survey thought they used under 20 litres per day, which just goes to show. So, roughly half the people thought they used 20, when actually the average was 146, 142-ish. So quite a huge difference. So when we heard that there, what do you think needs to be done just to help raise awareness of people's own personal water use? Because perceptions are very different than reality.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things really. One is definitely people need to better understand how much they do use. And even if it's only, for unmeasured customers, on average in this area, people use X litres of water a day, that it makes a massive difference. And we saw it in Bidwell when we gave people a letter that said, your household uses this many litres on average a day, and that's this many baths. So it suddenly went, what? I need to fix this. Even if they were actually quite low users, they were shocked still at how much they used, and they were kind of like, right, let me take action. So you've got to galvanise people in a way, and either you've got to shock them into realising the truth, or ideally give them that wide, like Miranda was saying, people have to understand what's the point, because it's seen as a free resource here. It's cheap, it's plentiful, or seemingly plentiful, and so for most people, they just don't get it. They don't understand why. And I don't think many people make the link between the energy used to create that water and clean it and pump it and treat it. The energy required for that is vast, and I think actually that more often than not, when we talk to people, particularly in focus groups before a campaign, we will ask them about that and whether that's motivating. And they very often as soon as they suddenly clock that, they go, oh, okay, because they've already identified with themselves that I'd like to do better for the environment. They just haven't ever connected that water is one of the ways they can do it.
Absolutely, and I think people quite rightly, because unless they're told, why would you know? Water companies are very high energy users. Often they're amongst the biggest energy users on their region, out of all industries, which I think is eye-opening, because people go, well, it's water. Yeah.
It's not the aviation industry.
They don't mix.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So we heard a lot of practical tips being mentioned there. Yeah, it's some really good ones. Lots of ones on showers, shorter showers, fewer showers, low flow shower heads. Get in quickly once the shower's hot. We heard about washing machines using quick washes, which is a good myth that you've just bust there. So watch out for that one. Using dirty water for plants. Another one. It's a good easy tip. And interesting one was the cutting back on water for cooking, when I think the person was talking about roasting food, so you're not using any water. That's one I'd not heard before. Just transition to not using water for your cooking. So what do you make of those tips? And what are in your experience, what would your best tips to save just 5 litres? What would they be?
Personally, one of the things that I definitely do in our household is I don't put on the washing machine as much. And I think that before I started doing this work in this sector, I just hadn't realised how water hungry the washing machines are. Clearly, there's a longer term white labelling issue that we can get into, but I think that just purely putting it on, even if it's eco, is using 50 litres. Whereas actually, I get my kids they're older now, so they're not quite as muddy as they once were, but shake the clothes out, wear them again. You don't need to wash your clothes every day. It's better for your clothes not to. So I'd say that using a washing machine a significant amount less, and also making sure that the dishwasher's absolutely full and they're not washing up. If I do have to wash up, I put the plug in. Don't do it under a running tap, because you can wash up just as effectively in a bowl or a sink with a plug.
Oh, great tips there, Miranda. What about your tips, Jane? What was your favourite tips for just saving 5?
Do you know what? I honestly think actually the lady in the clip who'd said getting into the shower quicker is a really good one, because actually I timed out I was trying out a device that had a timer on it, and it's 10 seconds that it takes for our water to get warm in our shower, and it's different in every house, depends on your boiler and pump and all the rest of it. But my husband sometimes will do what she said, turn it on, wander around, do a few jobs and get back in. I'm like, I'm out of sip. Even my kids came out of sip because it's like, come on, mum, I'll kill you. But that's a really easy, like showers can be so power hungry and so water hungry that actually you can knock 10 litres off right there really easily. And turn the shower off when you shampoo, that kind of thing. But it depends on your shower. I appreciate that if it takes a long time to warm up, that isn't very useful to you. And I think as well, the garden, we have a big garden at the front and the back and long gardens, which mean they're quite far from the water butt, which is a bit of a pain, but it's still well worth it. And actually, I've ended up just hooking it happens to be high because it's on a hill, hooked up a hose to the water butt so you can more easily kind of get it down to. It's not perfect, but even just the discipline of using a trigger hose or a watering can makes you so much more specific with where you're putting the water. Our trigger hose broke recently and I had to use the hose and I was like, God, I couldn't bear it. It's like sloshing water. I was like, I'm just going to leave the water. I'm just going to leave it. I can't bear it.
I was just going to jump in because I think that is a really interesting point about on a micro level. If you've collected your water in your water butt, you suddenly feel a real ownership over that rainwater and you don't want to waste it. So actually trigger hoses and watering cans suddenly feel like it's like, this is rainwater I've collected. I don't want to just waste it. And you'd never sort of set up some system where it's just going to be spraying water all night. Whereas people do that with their taps. And I think the woman that mentioned that she lived on a boat and she had to bring her water to the boat and they knew when that water was going down. We camp, and I know that we've had people that we work with who are in caravans or in camper vans, and suddenly that micro system and that micro world of like, this is my water that I have to use and I can see how much it is and I know how heavy it is because I've carried it from the sanitary block. That idea of really valuing the water, I guess we always say that our purpose and our ethos of Weir is about seeing a world where people think it is unthinkable to waste water. And realistically, the more you work on it in the world of water and you find out all of these really heavy impacts that water has, that you take that on and you save. The idea of saving 5 litres and getting people into the mindset, then it's sort of like it's using that world of actually it's important to save it and, see why you need to do it and very simply how you can do it. And if we all just do a little bit, save a vast amount.
I had another great tip this week, actually, which was new to me, and it came from it came from lovely Lottie Williams at Anglian Water, and her new toothbrush had on it instructions not to wet the toothbrush before brushing her teeth, because then the toothpaste works better. And we've both had this sort of like, aha moment of like, why are we telling people to turn it off? We should be telling them to never turn it on. And actually, then you rule out all of that. You don't have to even use that, little tiny bit that you might use at the beginning, even if you do turn it off. But that was a real sort of aha moment of like, actually, maybe this is about a message about toothpaste being more effective, not wasting water. So we can go sit in a different direction.
Love that one, Jane. Absolutely love that. Just don't turn your tap on in the first place and you're brushing teeth. Yeah, makes perfect sense. We are rapidly running out of time. Which means we have to get down to the very important question of your own personal water use. Now, Jane, I know what you said last time. So have you got an update for me on your personal water use in terms of litres per person per day?
Yeah, we managed to shave off one. We'd had 56.
56. Wow. You were third in our league table from last year's episodes. That doesn't elevate you up to second, but it's still impressive. So Miranda, are you going to be more laid back, or are you going to get all
No,
about it?
I'm quite significantly higher than her. Still significantly lower than the UK average. We're about 85 litres per person per day. But I have a teenager and a 12-year-old, nearly teenager, and I challenge Jane to keep it that low when her 3 are the same age as mine.
Yeah, it definitely helps that there's 5 of us as well. I do think there's a real economy of scale to that, cooking and everything else, and washing machine and things like that. It definitely does help to have more people.
I'm not gonna have another child to make my PCC lower, just so that I can divide it by 5 instead of 4.
Longo.
Don't apologise, Miranda, for having an per capita consumption of 85 litres per person per day, because that's still impressive figure, way below national average and way below the government's target for 2050. The positive message you want to get out, it's not about making sacrifices, actually. A bit more awareness, simple steps, easily reduce your water use, saving money, helping the environment, all that good stuff. It's not difficult. Thank you both for coming on. I really appreciate it. My favourite tip, by the way, for saving 5 litres is just don't do that flush in the night. If you get up in the night for do the business, just save that flush. Easy way to save 5. I mean, if you've got an old toilet, you might save more like 10 or 12 litres, so depending on your toilet. So that's my top tip. But we've seen lots of ways in this episode, and I hope people can see that it is easy to save 5 litres. And there might be people saying, well, 5 is just a tiny little amount. But think of it this way. If everyone in England and Wales saved 5 litres a day, that would be over 300 million litres of water per day. That is the amount of water that Birmingham uses per day. The city of Birmingham, Britain's second biggest city. So the whole point of small changes can make a big difference, I think, is absolutely relevant here. And you can just see, 300 million litres of water per day from saving just 5, which I think everyone agrees is really easy. So it does matter, and it is easy. So if you do want to find out more, please check out our website, ccw.org.uk, and you click at the top, it says Save Water, Save Money and Water. And you'll find pages that are packed with loads of different ways that you can save money, save water. We've also got a link in there to the Get Water Fit tool, which Jane was talking about earlier. And that will, when you put in your postcode, takes you to your own water company's area and the free stuff that's on offer on your patch. So it's well worth having a look at that tool. It's an easy tool to use. So that's it. That's all we've got time for in this edition of Waterfall. Thanks again to Jane and Miranda for joining me. So it's bye from me, Mike, and thanks for listening.